What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon video, and today the demo released, and of course it was data mined the fuck out of, and we've got loads of new information. I say new information, it's new images, new leaks basically, and what we have is basically the full Generation VII Dex. It wouldn't be very likely at this point that there are any extra Pokemon we haven't seen images of yet, because why would they leave some of the Dex in but not all of it? You know, why take some Pokemon out, some images out, and leave the rest? So it's likely that everything here in this video will be the entirety of everything that is introduced in Generation 7 in terms of Pokemon, Ultra Beasts, and Alolan forms. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, take a little look at the Dex overall, and of course, be warned, spoilers ahead, so if you don't want to be spoiled for things in the game that won't be officially released until the game is out almost, then please just leave, okay? We don't have names or anything yet. The data for names and types and stuff was actually removed from the game. They scrubbed it out by replacing every Pokemon's data by Pikipek. So every single Pokemon is Pikipek apart from the few that are actually used in the demo. However, they didn't do the same for the images. So we have the images of basically all the Pokemon in the game. So we'll start off and just jump straight in. First thing to talk about is that the starter leak is real. These are the starter evolutions, and it doesn't look like we're going to get split evolutions as we were sort of speculating with Rockruff and Lycanroc. Doesn't look like that's happening. We're just going to get the evolutions, and you can see here, of course, we have Mr. Archer Bird, Archer Owl, obviously the bipedal cat. Everyone's going to not choose Litten now, and then finally we have the Siren Seal. Basically, as we talked about many times, nothing too much to talk about these Pokemon. Again, I said we don't have names or types or anything, so all we can do is speculate. I'm assuming the Rowlet final evolution is going to be Grass Flying. The fire looks like Fire Dark, and water, probably Water Fairy, I would say, would be my guess, but we don't know. We'll have to see later on. Moving on, we actually have Pikipek's, or I say we actually have everything. Pikipek's evolution line, we can see here, when he evolves, he gets a nice longer beak, as you might expect, and you know, it's a generic middle evolution for Pikipek, but then the final evolution for it turns into a toucan for some reason. Starts off as a woodpecker, turns into a toucan. Why not? When I first saw a toucan picture, I thought it was like a separate Pokemon on its own, similar to Chatot, but no. Final evolution of Pikipek. So what you think of that is what you think of that. Then we have Yungoos, Gumshoos, Grubbin, Chargebug, Vikavolt, etc. Then I've actually sort of moved these Pokemon as they're actually in the Dex order. These all the images were pulled out in, so I'm assuming it's the order of the actual Dex. So next up we have actually Crabrawler, the fighting type crab, and next up we have Crabrawler's evolution, of course, which you can see here is very different in terms of design and colour to Crabrawler, but it looks like it might be an ice type, maybe a bomb. It looks like a sort of a abominable snowman, maybe, with all the fur, I guess you can call it. So maybe it's fighting ice type. That would be pretty cool, but we'll see when we come out. Then we have the Oricorios, of course. Then next up, followed by Cutiefly and Ribombee. Then Rockruff, Lycanroc and Lycanroc. Wishiwashi and the Wishiwashi school form. Then we have possibly a counterpart to Wishiwashi or a similar Pokemon to Wishiwashi. This was actually revealed or leaked, I guess you could say, on a TCG box art basically just before the demo actually started being data mined, and people saw this Pokemon, the sort of the first stage at least, seems to be some form of sea cactus, and you can see when it evolves it gets larger basically and gets a nice dome of spiky cactus basically, and the first two flaps lift up so you can see its head, I suppose you could say. So it's interesting. I'm guessing it's to be part water type, probably water poison would be my guess. It's a sea cactus thingy, so that would be my guess there. Who knows though? Then next up in the Dex we have Mudbray and Mudsdale, seen them before, followed by these two Pokemon, which I'm gonna call alien bugs because they look really weird. They're like ants, I think. At least the final evolution is based off of an ant, I would say, and they've got bubbles of possibly water or air around their heads and their legs for the final evolution. So I'm saying probably part bug type, since they're based off of ant, or you know, one of them based off of an ant, I would say. So possibly part bug type. Water might play a factor there. I wouldn't think so, no. It's an interesting Pokemon. It looks pretty funky. I don't know what type it's really going to be, but I put bug behind it. Next up we have Fermantis and Lurantis. Nothing too special there. Then we have Morlul, and of course Morlul we did predict to evolve, and we have a nice bigger Morlul basically with a nice huge head. Grass Fairy typing is probably going to stick there because it fits in very well. Then next in the Dex we actually have Salandit, and of course Salandit evolves into a very regal, almost like dragon Pokemon. It looks pretty cool. I'm guessing it's going to keep the poison fire typing because there would be a lot of outcry if it was actually changed to be something else, but it looks pretty funky indeed. Just basically a bipedal Salandit. It was a bit taller and a bit more flowing, I suppose. This is followed by Stuffle and Beware, which we've seen before, then Bunsweet, Steenie and Serena, which we've seen recently. Next up is Comfey, who actually does not have an evolution, and is just simply a Pokemon on its own. It's like a little funky Pokemon, it's the lay Pokemon, so it makes sense that it just doesn't really evolve, I suppose. And then next up in the deck is actually Oranguru and Passimium. There's no pre-evolution or evolution for either of them, we didn't really expect it to be. And next up after that is Wimpod, and Wimpod's evolution is bad ass. Look at that thing, it's huge, it's got loads of arms, it's almost like a Kabutops, it's a lot creepier, I suppose you could say. It's probably going to stay bug water, I'd say. It might maybe drop the water typing for something else, I don't know though, but it looks pretty damn awesome. Then it's followed by Sandygast and Palosand, and then Pyukumuku, who does not have an evolution, so Pyukumuku doesn't evolve, so yeah, that's that really. Pyukumuku's going to get forgotten about pretty quickly, but that's that. Then in the decks next is Type Null and Silvally. They're not further on as I'd expected, but I guess they are fairly far on. This is then followed by Minior, who doesn't have an evolution again, so very similar to Pyukumuku. Yes, okay, it's a funky thing with its shell breaking off, you got different coloured Miniors, but apart from that, it's going to be sort of pretty much quickly forgotten. And Kamala doesn't have an evolution either, pure normal type, sticking on its own. It's got a pretty cool ability, but apparently it's not going to have an evolution, so until it gets one in the possibly a future generation, it won't be that used, I suppose, in competitive at least. What I see from this deck is actually a lot of possibilities for evolutions in further generations. So Kamala, Minior is one, Comfey maybe, I suppose you could say one there, Pyukumuku definitely, there'd be loads of possibilities there, even pre-evolutions as well. Because next up we have Turtonator, our Fire Dragon type, who has no pre-evolution or evolution. Didn't really expect one, but you know, that's that. Followed by Togedemaru and Mimikyu, the Pikachu clones, nothing too special there. And then Bruxish, who's on its own as we figured. And then Drampa, again on its own. Then we have this weird Pokemon here. To me this should look like a Dreamcatcher, but I think it's an anchor that's covered in seaweed. So my guess would this would be like possibly a water ghost type or something like that. Probably related to water, who knows, that it's a pretty funky Pokemon. It's like an anchor with seaweed, as I said, hanging off of it. Then we have the pseudo-legendary line, Jangmo, Hakamo and Como, nothing too special there. And then we get onto the Guardians. First we have Tapu Koko, of course, and the three other Guardians, which are pink, red and purple. So the Psychic Fairy, Fire Fairy and Ghost Fairy theory holds true. That seems to be what we're getting. The first one based on, I don't know exactly what it is without looking further into it, but the second one I think is based on a pig because it has a nose ring. And the last one is a dolphin, so there's your dolphin Pokemon that was actually hinted at in the leak. Then we get really, really funky, because there seem to be pre-evolutions for Solgaleo and Lunala. You have the first one here, which has similar clouds, I suppose you could say, to Lunala's wings, and the second one has similar, sort of again, a similar design on the centre, but the design on the outside, the golden stuff, is similar to Solgaleo's mane, so possibly that pre-evolutions, they might be something related to different, maybe different forms. I wouldn't say different forms, probably different Pokemon indeed, but what they are, who knows exactly. But the weird thing is, Lunala's pre-evolution comes first, then Solgaleo's, but it's the other way around, because Solgaleo comes after that, and then Lunala. So I don't really know what's going on there, but that is that. Of course we have those two, and then Marshadow. Marshadow is almost looking like a mythical Pokemon here. You can see it sort of hanging around on its own. It's dark, it's got fiery eyes, so Dark Fire possibly is a good guess for that so far. No more mythical Pokemon, but we do have Magearna obviously, and Magearna has a separate form, which is this special Pokeball form, which we saw in the movie Magearna and the mythical Volcanion, something along the lines of Volcanion and the mythical Magearna, which was shown to be its ancient form, so it looks like that'll be like a mystery gift sort of thing for that, just to get your extra form. Those are all the Pokemon, that's your Generation 7 Pokemon, but of course we have some extra stuff to look at. First we're going to look at Ultra Beasts. Some of these were actually, in terms of, well, the images were pulled out. If they were printed and put on online in the same order they were pulled out, the Ultra Beasts were before Marshadow. So you had Solgaleo, Lunala, Ultra Beasts, Marshadow, Magearna. So possibly they'll be listed in the Pokédex, maybe, who knows. In terms of Ultra Beasts, we have Yu-Gi-Oh! 1 and Yu-Gi-Oh! 2 seen before, and then we have 5 other Ultra Beasts. Now, I'm predicting at least one of these to be like version exclusive stuff, so one is Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 and 2 versions. So I've got 2 here, Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 question marks, then Yu-Gi-Oh! 4, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5 and Yu-Gi-Oh! 6. Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 and 4 are similar, is why I put them together, but who knows exactly whether they'll be a separate pair. I just didn't make much sense to me to have a Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 be the final UB. 6 or 8, makes sense, but we can't do 8 because we have that, so, an even number makes sense to me, but we'll look at more Ultra Beasts in future videos. Then moving on to Alolan forms, of course we have Rattata, Raticate, Raichu, Sandshrew, Sandslash, Vulpix, Ninetales. Then, the strangest Alolan form that no one really expected, a Diglett and Dugtrio Alolan form. Again, we don't know the types for this, so who knows what type it becomes, but basically it gets hair. So, my only guess of that would be like, maybe it gains the normal type, because it's already a ground type, so what's it going to gain? It's got hair. What is it going to do? I don't know. Anyway, then we have Meowth, and of course we see Persian's Alolan form now. It's got basically a different coloured gem, and it's slightly fatter with its face being huge and puffed up. So it's slightly different, so it'll be a bulkier Persian, maybe slower, but maybe doing more damage, who knows exactly. Then we have a Geodude, Graver and Golem Alolan form line. There's not many changes on the designs, especially for Geodude and Graver, they just gain eyebrows basically, but Golem has this weird, you can't really see it on the picture, but weird sort of thing protruding from its back, so I don't know exactly what type it's going to be. It seems to regain the rock typing since it's very similar in appearance, so maybe rock and maybe gaining like, I don't know, fire, possibly they could work in here, or dark, because they like doing dark apparently. Then we have Grimer and Muck, Executor and Marowak, but if there's not enough Kanto forms for you, there are going to be, possibly, from what the images will tell us, 6 extra forms of Pikachu, 1 for each Ash design. We have 6 forms of Pikachu here with different hats on. You can see the first one is his Kanto hat, the second one is his Johto hat, the third one is his Hone and Sinnoh hat, the fourth one is his Unova hat, the fifth one being the Kalos hat, and the sixth one I think is the XY, Sun and Moon hat rather, that's coming out soon, so the Alola hat. What these will be, again I'm guessing events of sorts, maybe given out just to promote the anime maybe, and of course we have Ash Greninja coming too, so there's a lot of anime tie-ins I suppose you could say, but there's no shiny versions of these. There's shiny forms for all the other Pokemon which we'll look at later on I'm imagining, but there's no shiny forms for Pikachu, whether that's because the images weren't in the game, or whether because there'd be forms without shiny forms, who knows exactly. But that is your Generation 7 Dex, all of the new Pokemon, all of the new Ultra Beasts, all the new Alolan forms. In total that's going to be 18 Alolan forms, not including the Pikachus because they're a bit weird. 8 Ultra Beasts, and then it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 15, which is going to be, oh god, maths on, I promised myself never to do maths on stream again. That's 78 Pokemon, so about at least 70 new Pokemon-ish, some of these including forms, so it's not an exact value, but 70 or so new Pokemon, which is about the same as X and Y. So let me know what you think about that down below. Are you liking the fact that the Dex is slightly smaller, or were you hoping for like 100 or so new Pokemon? Let me know what you think about it down below, and let me think about the individual Pokemon. Are there any that we've just seen with this leak that just jump out at you, like the evolution of Wimpod that looks just completely crazy? Marshadow, do you like the design of that? You're looking forward to seeing how that ties in? Let me know down below, and let me know any theories you have about the Solgaleo and Lunar pre-evolutions or anything like that. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Expect more videos covering the data mine coming soon, but for this video it's it for me. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye my friends.